Teaching in a Multicultural World, a digital story by Jessica Strumbly, inspired by Bell Hooks, author of Teaching to Transgress. Acknowledging that our teaching style needs to change. As teachers, how can we reframe the idea that our teaching reflects a single norm? If we incorporate multicultural aspects into our teaching, does that mean we're losing control? Let's talk about this. My belief is that open discussion and debate can be healthy if it is appropriately facilitated. Students who are taught to have healthy conversations about topics that might be uncomfortable, such as multiculturalism, oppression, race, gender, and social justice, might be better off in the counseling field. As teachers, we need to share our fears with trusted friends and trusted colleagues and seek feedback about how to better manage this fear and increase our creativity. As teachers and as students, how can we embrace changes to make our classrooms more transformative from a multicultural standpoint? At what point will our fear succumb to the necessities of having a classroom where diversity is celebrated and discussion about social justice and race can be informative, beneficial, and structured? Race, sex, social class. Do these words make you feel uncomfortable? What kinds of things do you think about when these words are said out loud? Perhaps you feel a sense of worry because you don't want to offend anyone when talking about it. Perhaps you feel a sense of pride for your own culture and willingness to talk about it. Perhaps you feel incompetent to have a discussion or facilitate these discussions due to lack of knowledge. Does having a classroom where a professor talks to an audience of students without discussion or response constitute this as a safe space? To me, that is actually the type of space where learning is hindered. I believe students can learn so much by talking with peers and discussing content, sharing ideas that maybe one student had not thought of prior. Bell Hooks discusses the idea of transformative pedagogy. What is transformative pedagogy from a multicultural perspective? Enter the classroom with the assumption that we need to build a community, a place where students can feel comfortable with each other and get to know one another more than just at the surface. Bell suggests that students create journals throughout the class, writing thoughts, ideas, and responses to course content and discussion. She then suggests that students pair up and share their reflections with one another. How can we be comfortable talking about issues of race, sex, and social class without having built some level of relationships with those we are having the discussions with? In this case, I think icebreakers are necessary to begin building a more communal and comfortable environment. Bell also mentions the idea of compassion. Yes, compassion is important in this type of teaching environment. So what exactly does that mean? With discussion about topics that impact our lives outside the classroom, we need to understand that students might be feeling some levels of pain during these discussions. There are probably a range of emotions that students feel: guilt, shame, fear, sadness. Students are literally transforming in front of you, learning that maybe they need to give up old ways of thinking. As teachers, it is important to be understanding of this transformation while it is happening right before our eyes. And what a privilege that is to be a part of a person's widening worldview. As teachers, it's important to recognize that students do have a willingness to learn. Bell describes this as willingness to break through barriers of learning and relearn negative patterns about culture that perhaps have been ingrained in their thinking from a young age. So what have I learned from all of this? From my cultural courses, from working in the field, from teaching classes, and from interacting with peers? Well, I learned that I have a long way to go in developing my own multicultural competencies. I've learned that multiculturalism is not only to be taught about in multicultural counseling courses. It should be threaded and intertwined into other classrooms and into conversations outside the classroom. Bell states that fear hinders our abilities as teachers to effectively and accurately teach about multiculturalism and social justice, and I truly believe my fear will hinder me unless I continue to learn more about multiculturalism and immerse myself into other cultures and environments in which I haven't been. I have learned that maybe these conversations aren't always easy, but they are always necessary. In order to make change, in order to learn, we need to talk and engage with those who are different from ourselves. Be open to change, be open to new ideas, and most of all, be open to listen with an open mind.